So apparently, and unbeknownst to me, I am a white passing white supremacist, which is really interesting and comes as somewhat of a shock because I'm black, white, and Hispanic. And I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania where I routinely dealt with naked and ugly racism. I remember the first time that somebody called me a nigger. I was 7 years old. I actually had an afro when I was a little kid. I had an afro, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I was on the playground at my elementary school, and some kid called me a nigger. And I had no idea what that meant. You can imagine my shock and my sadness when I found out what that word meant. And it goes on from there. There were countless instances over the years, the late 80s, early 90s, small town Pennsylvania. I remember a couple years later, there was a kid younger than me, total shrimp. And for whatever reason, this kid was talking about coons and how his uncle didn't like coons. And if a coon came into his backyard, his uncle would shoot it. And me, mild-mannered, nice, little 8 or 9-year-old kid, right before the world set in and fucked with me and made me what I am today, I was like, why would your uncle shoot raccoons like that? And he says, no, niggers, you idiot, right? And it goes on from there. I had other instances, situations where I remember being in middle school and there was this one stupid, annoying girl who, when she found out I was mixed, she started calling me a half-breed. And so I went to the teacher and I said, excuse me, I don't think this is right. Like, this is not appropriate. She shouldn't be saying this. And it was dismissed. I was told, you just have to live with it. That was my life. And yeah, I was very successful in school and I had lots of friends and I did extracurriculars and everything else, but I dealt with my fair share of racism all the way up, right? Race riots in my junior high school. I was the class president trying to broker peace talks between the blacks and the whites because I straddled both worlds, right? And then after that, getting pulled over by the cops for bullshit and racially profiled. And it keeps going. Countless instances in that direction. But all of a sudden, I'm white passing, apparently, because I do not embrace the concept of microaggressions. That's the genesis of all this. That's where this is all coming from. I made some public statements about microaggressions and about the fact that I really do not give a shit about microaggressions and that microaggression theory is basically horse shit. And so in response, I am white passing, have never experienced racism, because somebody with my beliefs on this particular topic must necessarily not understand racism or have firsthand experience with it. So now I'm white passing, and now I'm also a white supremacist, which is really fucking interesting as well, because I have a 20 plus year track record of doing direct service work on behalf of poor black people and particularly poor black kids. And this goes back to volunteer work in a secure juvenile facility when I was still in college. And then it moves from there to teaching high school in inner city Baltimore after I graduated from Cornell. I graduated from Cornell, people, Phi Beta Kappa, magna cum laude, near the top of my class. I had countless offers to go make a bunch of money working in finance or business. And I went to teach high school English in inner city Baltimore. You know what my first choice location was? The Mississippi Delta, right? Wound up going to Baltimore City. What do those two places have in common? A bunch of poor black people, okay? And it goes from there. I've represented a bunch of black people in employment cases, in discrimination cases, in civil rights cases. When I got to South Florida and was working at a big law firm, I wasn't content to just work 70 hours a week in big law. I decided I had to do something to really give back to the community. So I started a speech and debate program at a poor Title I, nearly all black high school in Lauderdale Lakes. And by the way, got 2 kids to national championships. But I'm a white supremacist. I'm a white supremacist and white passing because I had the audacity to criticize, disagree with, and in fact talk shit on microaggression theory. Do you see what you're doing, folks? Do you see how fucking crazy this has gotten? Where you have people, you have somebody like me, for fuck's sake, who is part black, who has dealt with racism, who has been called a nigger countless times, who has dealt with naked and ugly fucking racism in my life. And now all of a sudden, nope, I'm white passing. You don't understand. You've never dealt with this. You've never lived this. You're white passing, right? I'm white passing. And now, in spite of this 20 fucking years of being committed to serving other people, and all the work I've done on behalf of poor people, and especially poor black people, and especially poor black kids, I'm a fucking white supremacist because I think microaggressions are horse shit. If even I am subject to attack, then who isn't, right? Who's off limits? What are the fucking boundaries? Okay? This aggressive policing of a hardline ideological orthodoxy. Big fucking words, huh? Do you really think that serves the cause? Do you really think that's effective? Who the fuck is telling people that this is the right strategy? Okay? And some people look at it and think, oh, we've had enough, so we're just gonna we're gonna throw down on everything. Every microaggression, we're gonna make people toe the line. We're gonna call out every single instance. Who the fuck told you that that was an effective strategy? You don't have any power. That's no real power, right? Calling everybody out on their fucking microaggressions. Gave you a pretend seat at a table, right? That's not a seat at the real table. Gave you a pretend seat at a pretend table. Told you it was some real shit. Told you it was gonna make a difference and make an impact. That's to placate your ass. Let's take Mark, okay? Mark is a manager in a company. And Mark likes to have staff meetings. And in these staff meetings, there is one black woman, and Mark talks all over top of her. She weighs in on something, she makes a comment or she makes a statement, and Mark talks all over top of her. Obviously, it must be because Mark is a racist. That must be a racist microaggression, right? Wrong. Not necessarily so. Mark talks all over top of fucking everyone. Watch part 2.